Namaste. Welcome to the Bhagavad Gita class by Bhagavad. And we're very happy you were able to come and join in and watch and listen and sing with us. So let us get started with a good old style one. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddhi Nanda Paramahamsa Dinamine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddhi Nanda Paramahamsa Namine Namo Siddhi Swarupa Nanda Paramahamsa Namine Gaura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate Namo Siddhi Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gaura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddhi Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Vaskachadya Satani Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Vaskachadya Satani Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Paramahansa Parirajika Satar Sati Shishima Jagakuru Siddhaswarupa Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parirajika Satar Sata Shishima. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Guru Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhattacharya Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Itai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai. Navadu Itama Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Mayapodam Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to Samal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Samal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Samal devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Oma Gina Timurandasya Gina Gina Salakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajeevam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahansa Nitinamine. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahansa Namine. Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate. Before speaking, first I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagakuru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahansa Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, Gaura Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. I offer my respects unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, full of compassion upon all the fallen souls. Haribol, Namaste. continuing with Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. We're up to text 20. And I mentioned last week at the end of my Bhagavad Gita class that text 20 changes from anustep or shloka mita, which is 8 syllables on each pada or quarter line, and it jumps to tristup mita, which is 11 syllables. And this happens throughout Bhagavad Gita, where there's like a particularly important verse, or it becomes more emotional, a bit more heightened, a bit more kind of emphasis. So in the Gita, actually I'm not sure of the number of tristup mita verses. There's the majority of the Gita is shloka mita, or 8 syllables per pada or quarter line. But there's quite a number that are at tristup, particularly in chapter 11, where Krishna reveals his universal form, and where then Arjuna becomes like totally excited and starts, jumps up to this tristup mita and goes on for like quite a lot of verses in that mita. And so anyway, so the way that the tristup mita is recited, it's the same number of syllables, the same mita that there is in Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's samsara prayers, or prayers to the spiritual master, that are generally recited early in the morning. And so the samsara davan alalita loka. So this is na jayate mriyate bakarachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha ajo nitya sashvato ayam purano na hanyate hanyamani sarire. And so this is the first time that Krishna speaks in this mita. And so Krishna first started, or he spoke a little bit in, said half a line in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. And he said to Arjuna, look, see all these Kurus assembled here. And then couple verses at the start of chapter 2 where he like chastised Arjuna and for speaking like in a miserly way, and in a showing weakness, and and then Krishna begins speaking in text 11, where he says, Asoshanan vasochastvam prajnavarams chabasase gata sumsna gata sumscha nanu soshanti panditaha. That while speaking learned words, like speaking like a pundit, actually you're lamenting for that which is not worthy for grief. The pundits, they don't lament for the living nor the dead. So this is the text 11 was the first verse Krishna speaks, and then he kind of builds on this in text 12, where he speaks that na tvevaham jatu nasam na tvam nemi jana dipaha na chaiva na bhavishyamaha save vaya mata param. So never was there a time where I, nor you, nor all these kings here did not exist, and never in the future shall we ever cease to be. And so Krishna is like, building on these ABCDs of spiritual life. Firstly, the body. You're lamenting for that which is not worthy of lamenting. that never was there a time when you do not exist, nor I, nor all these kings. Then Krishna first introduces the idea of reincarnation, that like passing from boyhood to avanam, kavanam, yara, passing from boyhood to youth to old age in this body, and similarly at death we pass to another body. Then he speaks about having tolerance, So first of all, Krishna has spoken about how you're not the body, and you should be able to tolerate what happens to the body without lamenting, even if it means death. Then he speaks about you should be mentally tolerant, the subtle body. You should be tolerant, able to tolerate happiness and distress, just as we have to tolerate winter and summer seasons. Then Krishna says that he who can be like this, who is tolerant like this, is eligible for liberation. Then Krishna speaks some more verses emphasizing the difference between sat and asat, between what is real and what is false, between that the sat never ceases to exist, whereas the asat is temporary. So anyway, from text 11 through to text 19, Krishna is building on this idea that you're not the body and that you shouldn't be lamenting. And then in text 20, suddenly then Krishna jumps to this Tristopmita, text 20 is more or less like a summary of what Krishna, or a summary, or almost like a crescendo, right? Like you have a musical performance, an orchestra is performing, and it's kind of like, the beat or the mood, the atmosphere is, starts off, and then it builds and builds, and then it reaches a crescendo. And so here in this verse, Krishna is kind of reaching a crescendo where he's kind of like almost like summarizing what he said previously and then making a key point. So he says, Najayate mriyate vakarachin nayam bhutva bhavita vanabhuyaha ajo nicha sashvato ayam purano nahanyate hanyamani sarire. So for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So najayate mriyate vakarachin. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. Ajo nitya sashvato ayam purano. He is unborn, ajo, aja, eternal, nitya, ever existing, sashvato, and primeval, purana. Nahanyate hanyamani sarire. He is not slain when the body is slain. So this last para, nahanyate hanyamani sarire. He is not slain when the body is slain. This is one of the most frequently cited quarter verses that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada quotes. Like if you look through his books or his lectures, you'll see he's often quoting Nahanyate hanyamani sarire. The body is not slain. He, the soul, is not slain when the body is slain. So we don't die when the body dies. Nahanyate hanyamani sarire. So the body dies, but the soul does not. So anyway, so this is like a little, almost like a sutra or a summary that is like the summary of all these 11 verses that Krishna has spoken up to this point. Srila Sridhar Swami, the great Sri Vaishnava commentator on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, who Lord Chaitanya emphasized his commentaries. He says Arjuna's statement in chapter 1, verse 35, of not wanting to slay them, to not slay the opponents, to not slay his grandfather Bhishma or his grandsire Bhishma Dev, his military teacher Drona Acharya, his cousin brothers, Duryodhana and his 99 brothers, the Dhritarashtra's, and all the other relatives and friends upon the battlefield. Arjuna says in text 35, chapter 1, he doesn't want to slay them. And but Sridhar Swami says this has been proven equally groundless as well by the Supreme Lord's explanation of the ultimate truth, revealing that the eternal soul does not slay anything, and the eternal soul cannot be slain by anything. So in text 19, Krishna says, neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. So then Sridhar Swami says the reason for this is given in the next verse. In other words, in this text 20, Krishna explains why it is that the self slays not, nor is slain. So Krishna here is explaining, well, this is not possible. The soul slays not, nor is ever slain, because for the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So the soul is not born, right? The Atma, or the soul, is not born. It never, it's ever existing. It's like Aja is unborn. The soul is never born. It is Aja. The soul never dies. Krishna says here. Namriyate. Right? The soul does not die. Mriyate is death or dying. So Krishna says the soul does not die. The soul is not born. The soul does not die. The soul has never been non-existent, nor has it become existent at some point in time. Right? So therefore the soul is eternal, is Nitya. Nitya. So Lord Nityananda means Nitya, eternal, Ananda is bliss. So Lord Nityananda is eternally blissful. So the soul is not born, does not die. The soul has never been non-existent, nor it has become existent at some point in time. Therefore, by definition, the soul is eternal. So like, and the soul does not die with the body, because it's not joined permanently with the body. The soul is not subservient to the body. So it's like, the materialistic philosophy is that, the soul, they talk about a soul. When an atheist talks about a soul, well, I guess they've got no idea what they're talking about. But if oftentimes people kind of think, well, the soul comes into existence when the body comes into existence, right? When the body comes alive, well, that's when the soul is there. Of course, in one sense, that's true, right? When the soul is present in the body, then the body is alive. But they then think that, well, that you cease existing when the body ceases to exist. So this, this idea, of course, and we've been talking about it for the last however many weeks, but this understanding that Krishna is providing here in this verse in a sort of crescendo way or essence way of what he's been speaking up to this point, this is really the beginning of spiritual understanding. To realize that the soul is eternal, that I am eternal, that I'm not this body. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, or spirit. I'm spiritual in essence. I'm spiritual in essence. I'm not better. That this body has a beginning and an end, but I don't. I'm eternally existing, always existing. I have not come into, as Krishna says here, Nayam Bhutta Bhavita Vana Bhuyaha. I have not come into existence. I will not come into existence. And he has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. It's like we're eternally existing. And of course, as right now, this whole sort of period of COVID-19, this is very important. Krishna essentially is saying, that we're eternal, we do not die, right? And this whole concern about the virus, of course, is about, well, maybe I'll get the virus and I'll die, right? Or maybe someone I love, some relative or someone will get the virus and die, right? So, so at the time of this virus, it's kind of like everyone's been confronted with death all at once, right? Like, normally we don't like to think about death much, when as a child, when we first learn about death, it's kind of like this scary idea. It's like, oh, I remember as a little kid, I can almost don't quite completely remember the whole thing, but I remember sort of finding out from my mother that there's this thing called death, in relation to I think it was a bird or something like that, right? And then, and I learnt that my grandfather, my mother's father, my grandfather, he was dead. Right? I don't think he died. I think shortly after I was born, but certainly at an age where I couldn't remember anything about him. Like I don't remember him at all, other than a photo that used to sit on the family mantelpiece, of my grandfather. And so I remember my mother telling me about that her father was dead, and it was kind of like, well, what is this? What is this death thing? What is death? And it was kind of like, well, it's I remember just as a kid, like feeling, oh, this is kind of pretty scary. And, and then sort of asking a few more questions about it. And, does that mean I'm going to die? And it's, of course, your parents don't like to bring this. Of course, in devotee families, fortunately, the parents do bring it up. But in, in my childhood, well, my mother didn't like to bring it up. It's like, well, yes, Mark, you will die too. I was like, oh, okay. This is a bit of a shocking idea. I didn't like the idea. I didn't like the idea at all. I remember feeling, can kind of remember the emotions that go with it. It's like kind of like this fearful feeling, there's this like, oh, this is not very good. I wonder what that's about, and why it's about, and what happens when you die. And of course, well, they didn't have too many answers. I don't think I asked too many questions, because you actually don't like to talk about it. It's kind of like a taboo, right? You don't talk about it. And if you see a dead body, like if there's a human dead body somewhere, first thing people do is cover it up, like automatically. It's kind of seen as like a respectful thing. It's respectful to cover the dead body, but it's also like, it's just like too shocking. It's just too uncomfortable for everyone. It's just like too uncomfortable to be looking at a dead body. It's like, oh man, it's just like too shocking. It's just, an absolutely shocking thing to see a dead body. So I don't know how people do it who work in morgues or funeral homes. I guess like anything, you get hardened to it, right? But it's like, wow, it's shocking. So we try not to think of it. In fact, in the Mahabharata, one of the famous quotes that, or one of the few quotes from Mahabharata that Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to quote, was that Maharaj Yudhisthira said that the most amazing thing is that even though everyone, I'm not giving a word for word quote here, just basically the idea, but the most amazing thing is that though everybody knows that everyone dies, that their parents have died and that the grandparents die, even though they know that everyone is going to die, still they live their life as though they're not going to die, And of course, I suppose this is kind of natural, because we know that, that in one sort of deep level, we kind of know that we're not going to cease existing when we die. But because we lack any information about that, we still are sort of thinking, well, yeah, I'm going to die. I'm going to, the dreaded day is going to come. Of course, we put it off. We don't like to think about it, I'm still kind of old-fashioned. We get the printed newspaper, don't just read the news on the phone. So when you look at the printed newspaper, and there's a section, the obituaries, and so I always sort of look in there, and I look, well, how old was this person? Right? They give the birth date and the death date, and you kind of look at that and go, well, okay, all right. Oh, this person was younger than me. So it's kind of like a bit of a knock knock. Okay, people younger than you are dying, and then you look at the people who are living longer, and anyway, most of them die in their obituaries anyway, before 80 or heading up towards 80, and so I have to look and think, okay, well, yeah, I'm 63, so I got maybe 16, 17 years, and you kind of think about that, and it's like, oh, that's not very good. I don't like that idea, Of course, having the great good fortune in my life to come in contact with my spiritual master and with my Parama Guru, my grandfather's spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and his books, and spiritual master's books and lectures, and the association with his disciples. Of course, we have some understanding that, well, actually, I'm not going to die. I don't die. I don't cease existing. This body dies, but nahanyate hanyamani sarire, as Krishna says, he, the soul, is not slain when the body is slain. He, the soul, doesn't die when the body dies. So there's kind of like some relief there, some liberation from this fear of death that essentially everyone else has. They fear that, well, I'm going to cease existing. So of course at death, we leave everything behind. We don't know where we're going. Our loved ones find it a painful experience. They suffer, we suffer. The whole thing is scary. It's terrifying, actually. But there's so much suffering associated with death. Yet death itself is not actually the real cause of the suffering. The cause of the suffering is the ignorance surrounding death, that we don't know that we continue to exist, that we're eternal. So it's the false identification, or ahankara, false ego, false identification with the body as the self. But in reality, of course, there's nothing more inevitable than death. Everybody knows it. From the moment we're born, death is inevitable, as Krishna says in text 27, I think. He says, always forget the first line. Okay, Jatasya hidravo mritu dhruvam janma mritasya cha tajmada parihari yate natvam soshitu mahase. That which pervades the entire body. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So one who's taken birth is sure to die, and after death one is sure to take birth again. There's nothing more inevitable than death, and then following death is birth. And in fact, our bodies are dying from the moment of birth. As soon as we're born, we're dying. We're dying in a second. We're dying for an hour here. Right? While I'm speaking about death, we're dying. We're in the process of dying. We're using up the allotted amount of time that we have in this particular birth, in this particular body. So really, this realization that Krishna is giving us here, that I am eternal, that I don't die when my body dies, nahanyate hanyamani sarire, it's actually truly liberating. I don't die, only my body dies. I am eternal. When we understand this, we can actually conquer death, the fear of death. So death will lose its sting. So, moving on to the purport of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada on this verse. He says, qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. So we're spiritual in essence, but we're not the Supreme Spirit. This is part 2 of the science of identity. Part 1 of the science of identity is understanding that I'm spiritual in essence. Part 2 is understanding my position. So essence, position, and function, the 3 parts of the science of identity, as Srila Prabhupada has very uniquely explained this Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. So position is that, I'm the same in essence as Krishna, the Supreme Person. Krishna is spiritual in essence, and I am spiritual in essence. But I'm just a small atomic fragmental part. So I'm one with the Supreme, but I'm actually not the Supreme in one sense. So this is Lord Chaitanya's Achintya Beta Beta Tattva philosophy. Achintya, inconceivable, Beta Beta, simultaneously one yet distinct, Tattva, or truth or philosophy. So Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. So I'm simultaneously one with, yet distinct. And this is a wonderful philosophical idea, and very unique in the way that Lord Chaitanya presented it. But it's very easy to understand. We can understand that, yes, I am, as Bhaktivedanta Swami says here, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. So of course the Mayavadi philosophers love to say that, it's all one. I remember as a, when I first got some interest in spirituality, when I was in high school and in Sydney, Sydney, Australia, and I used to, I started reading books by this guy called Hermann Hesse. He's a German author, and his books he'd obviously been very influenced by Buddhism and other forms of spirituality, and so his books were kind of like spiritual. And anyway, this sort of started to awaken an interest further in spiritual topics, and earlier on in high school I'd, my family was Church of England, or what they call in America evangelical, and not evangelical, starts with an E anyway. Can't remember. Anyway, it's called the Church of England in England, and anyway, Episcopals, yeah, Episcopals. Anyway, it's it all starts because like King Henry VIII wants to get divorced, and the church won't let him get divorced, so he starts his own church. Well, okay, if you're not going to let me get divorced, I'm going to start my own church. And I don't care if you excommunicate me, I'm going to be the head of my church. And if anyone opposes me and tries to say that I'm I'm excommunicated and therefore I'm a heathen, well, I'll execute them. And so this is how this wonderful Church of England got started. And it's quite amusing, really, how these different churches get started. So you've got like this big spiritual movement suddenly getting co-opted by King Henry VIII, who basically takes almost all of the followers of the Pope, of the Catholic Church in England, and immediately converts them all into Protestants or, members of the Church of England. And they basically had no choice but to go along. They didn't go along. Life was going to be very difficult for them. And anyway, this led to all kinds of conflict and led to the current day problems in Ireland, where the Catholics in Ireland didn't want to follow King Henry VIII. And this went on for centuries and still leading to problems in Northern Ireland, where the Protestants are fighting the Catholics. So anyway, I went to a private school, very good school actually, got quite a good education, of which I can be grateful to my parents for. But anyway, it was a church school, and as I got a bit older, I went through the process of getting confirmed. You get confirmed in the faith, but it was kind of like, well, I didn't really have any true, deep spiritual understanding of what it was all about, even though I went to these confirmation classes. You had to go to classes and even had to go to a weekend retreat where you have to go through this process of a bit of study of what this confirmation means and what the church's teachings are. But it was kind of like all the other kids who were there, were teenagers, 13, 14, something like that. none of us really had any interest in it. You know, it was just something you had to do because your parents made you do it. So anyway, so at that point I had a little bit of interest. I became a bit interested. Okay, what is this all about? You know, and started studying it a bit more. Then I started reading these Hermann Hesse books, and the point I was getting at was that you know, in these Hermann Hesse books, it's all about, well, it's all one. You know, and I remember I used to have this friend of mine, Nick Williams, and he used to always say, oh, it's all one. You know, when I first, so anyway, so I left high school, and instead of going to university, I decided I want to take a year off, much to my parents' chagrin. And so we decided to take a year off, and I'm going to go to New Zealand. And I went to New Zealand because it's easy to go to New Zealand at that time. You didn't need a passport. I could catch a ship, called a ship the Fair Sky, cost like $50 or something. and I had an old school friend who'd lived in Sydney in the house in front of me. And anyway, he lived over there, so I could go and stay with him for a bit when I first got there. So anyway, so we caught the ship, took my surfboard off to New Zealand. And of course that's where, you know, Tusta Krishna Swami was causing like a revolution in New Zealand of getting people chanting Krishna's names, and it was like a big deal. I think I've mentioned that he would promote chanting Hare Krishna in the Tracks, in the surf magazine called Tracks, and it used to have articles in there, photos in there. And then I used to go down the main street in Auckland, is called Queen Street, and every Friday night there was this big Sankirtan in front of the ANZ Bank. They used to take over the whole front of the bank, and there were like a bunch of devotees. There might have been 40 or 50 devotees, you know, and lots of mothers had come with their little babies and their little kids, and you know, everyone at that time, everyone was in saris, and or the women were in saris rather, not everyone, and the men would wear dhotis and so on. So anyway, so it was like this exposure to spiritual ideas. But anyway, and so before I started chanting and attempted to become a devotee or apply the teachings of our spiritual master in my life, you know, I got into sort of impersonalism a bit, not in a big heavy way, but we used to sit around and talk and be saying things like, oh, it's all one, you know. And this is such a common idea, right, of sort of pseudo-spiritualists. Of course, some people with this philosophy have, you know, studied deeply, studied Vedanta, you know, like when Lord Chaitanya was speaking in Benares with Prakasananda Saraswati, you know, so their feeling of it's all one, or Soham, you know, I'm God, you know, it's all one, is based on deep philosophical study of Vedanta and studying Sankaracharya, the incarnation of Lord Shiva's commentary on Vedanta. And so reading all the Upanishads, and so, in other words, it's a process of jnana or yoga, knowledge, transcendental knowledge. So knowledge that I'm not this body, that I'm Brahman, that I'm spiritual in essence, you know, is based on deep study and meditation and so on. Whereas, of course, my kind of, like, it's all one is just based on like pop psychology, you know, or new age philosophy, you know, that comes from reading a few books like Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha or something, and then thinking, oh, I'm so spiritual, you know, and I know everything's one, all one, you know. So anyway, the point I'm making here is Lord Chaitanya's philosophy of Achincha Beta Beta Tattva. It brings together this idea that we're one, you know, because we are one, right? We are simultaneously one with, yet distinct. We are beta beta, right? This beta beta, beta is oneness, and abeta is distinction. So, but it's pronounced beta, beta. But it's actually two words combined together, beta and beta. And I've explained before, if you get two us, one at the end of a word and one at the start of the next word, they become combined together through the Sanskrit grammatical rule. It's known as sandhi, which means the junction. So the two words become combined together, so then it's beta, beta. But anyway, so this philosophy of Achincha Beta Beta Tattva of Lord Chaitanya's, there's a wonderful philosophy in that it explains and makes clear that we're simultaneously one, yet distinct. We're spiritual in essence, but we're not God. But at the same time, we are God. We're the same in quality, but not the same in quantity. It's like we're like the spark of a fire or the ray of sunshine. So when the spark of the fire is non-different from the fire, but nonetheless, it's not the fire. Or the ray of sunshine, it's non-different from the sun, but yet it is. It's not the sun. You know, this is Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, and the verse I like to quote from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is where, Lord Chaitanya is speaking to Srila Rupa Goswami. He says, Jivira Swarupaya Krishnera Nichidas Krishnera Tatashsa Shakti Beta Beta Tattva. So Jivira Swarupaya, the eternal form of the Jiva, is that we are Krishnera Nichidas. We are the eternal servant of Krishna. The Jiva is eternally the servant of Krishna. That is our true nature, our eternal form, like our Jivira Swarupaya, our Swarup, our spiritual form, is that we are the servant of Krishna. Krishnera Tatashta Shakti, we're the marginal potency, or Tatashta Shakti, or energy with it. Tatashta Shakti, the marginal potency. Krishna has his internal energy, his spiritual Yogamaya potency. He has his external potency, the Mahamaya, and we are his spiritual potency, the marginal potency, Tatashta, which means, as I've mentioned a few times, the border between the borderline, the margin. So the margin between along the shore where the sand is, between the land and the water, as Tatashta, the marginal potency, and Beta Beta Tattva. So Jivira Swarupaya Krishnera Nichidas Krishnera Tatashta Shakti Beta Beta Tattva, which means simultaneously one and yet distinct. So we are the eternal servant of Krishna. We are Tatashta Shakti, marginal potency, and we are simultaneously one with, yet distinct from Krishna. So Bhaktivedanta Swami said here in his first line at the purport, qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of the Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. So we'll leave it there for tonight. So I only got through one line of the purport, so we'll continue this next time. Although actually next week, Kirtan Dasi, who runs Yoga Kirtan Hawaii, has said like next Monday is the International Day of Peace, and she's asked me to give a talk about peace on the International Day of Peace. So I was going to do that next week, and I'll be speaking on Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 66, and I think 70 and 71, where Krishna speaks about real peace. And so next week, my class will actually be in Facebook Live, Yoga Kirtan Hawaii, but we'll also do a watch party in this private group. So anyway, something different next Monday from the usual program. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. And I had a couple of comments last week that I I ramble in my classes, and some people said they like my rambling, and so I think I certainly managed to ramble tonight. And anyway, I hope you like the class. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak on Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And on Friday evening in Healing Chart 108, I'll be continuing with our discussion on Canto 1, Chapter 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Thank you. Haribol. Got your fan on?
That's okay. Haribol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Haribo, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. We really, really appreciate and love having you with us.